Alright, so I mentioned it before. I am quitting smoking cigarettes. And I have tried before. I quit before for a few months using vape and nicotine gum. Well, I'm starting to quit again. So since the 30th, on the 30th and 31st on this piece of paper here, I just kept track of how many cigarettes I smoked and when throughout the workday. 30th and the 31st, those were both work days. I smoked 12 cigarettes each of those 2 days. And then I got this little notepad I was just carrying around in my pocket. So at first I smoked 11 cigarettes. The second I smoked 9 cigarettes. On January 3rd I smoked 11 cigarettes. January 4th I smoked 8 cigarettes. 18, wow. And today, the 5th, so far, I have smoked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've been busy today, doing laundry, doing dishes, cleaning the bathroom, cleaning the bedroom a little bit, just doing some things. But I've learned that you cannot manage anything that you do not monitor. So I am monitoring how many cigarettes I smoke a day so that I can actually manage it. But yeah, so my plan is I usually smoke 2 cigarettes on the way to work. And I usually smoke 1 at the 10 o'clock break, 2 at my lunch break, 1 at the 2:30 break. And then it looks like I averaged 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Averaged 5.5, 6 cigarettes after work. So my goal, starting tomorrow, I'm going to replace 1 cigarette on the way to work with a piece of nicotine gum. And then I'm going to replace 1 cigarette at lunchtime with a piece of nicotine gum. And that's where I'm starting at there, to start cutting down on those. Let you guys know how that's going and keep you posted on what techniques that I'm using to do that, and update you on my progress here and there. But yeah, it's another great day to be above ground. If life was going any better, I would think that the deck was stacked in my favor. That's a technique of using positive talk to, I guess, don't talk negative. Where I leave off in my last video, we're somewhere. So the first, in the juvenile penitentiary, I ended up getting my high school equivalency diploma while I was in the Juvenile Department of Corrections. Don't know where I'd be today if I hadn't had it, but I did get that while I was locked up in the juvenile penitentiary. And that was the first round, because you guys know I got paroled there for a little bit to my grandmother's house and ended up taking off and being run on parole, and got picked back up and was sent to Harrisburg, IYDOC Harrisburg, from St. Charles. The first time I was in Warrenville, that's where I got my high school equivalency diploma. In Harrisburg, I'd actually gotten 4 certificates down there, but I got out of there before I received that 5th one, and that was in plumbing. But I showed you guys these in the other video pretty quickly. But Yeah, that's where I got the introduction to microcomputers and data processing. It's a certificate. It shows on the back like everything that that certificate was for. Uh, shoot. I could, yeah, I guess I could do that. I guess it's basically examine an introduction to computers, identify and examine microcomputer applications, processing data into information, examine input to the computer, examine the processor unit, examine output from the computer, examine auxiliary storage, examine file organization and databases, examine data communications, examine operating system and system software, identify commercial applications software, identify the information systems development lifecycle, examine program development, identify career opportunities in information processing, and identify trends and issues in the information age. So that was 1996 for that one. That was 1995, 1995, 1995. So that one was the last one I got. Don't remember any of that. Probably would have been something better to get into with all this AI stuff coming out and everything. Yeah, then there was the Introduction to Business. That one was 1995. Wow. Examine the concept of satisfying needs and wants. Examine the private enterprise system. Examine the role that you play in the private enterprise system. Examine the way to measure economic progress. Explore what business is all about. Describe how businesses are organized. Examine world trade and how it affects our economy. Examine the use of the computer at work. Examine the use of the computer at home. Identify the challenge that computers present. Examine the concept of the workforce. Identify the way to plan your career. Examine the way to enter the world of work. Describe how to be an informed consumer. Examine the way to shop wisely. Examine a consumer's rights and responsibilities. Examine the business of banking and financial services. Examine why you need a checking account. Examine the way to write and receive checks. Examine the use of return checks and your bank statement. Examine other ways to make payments. That sounds more like introduction to personal finance to me. A lot of the stuff that I learned in the personal finance class I took. That was one of the certificates there, you know. Oh, these were in IYDOC Harrisburg, but there were staff that came in from the Southern Illinois College, came in and taught us this stuff and allowed us to learn in a otherwise difficult environment, I guess you'd say. This one was small engine repair. That one I remember. I ended up becoming an automotive technician, and so I remember doing the small engine repair, working on the weed whackers and the lawnmowers, and I remember that. So, student safety pledge, general safety practices, shop safety practices, methods of using a gasoline engine, shop hazards, shop safety inspection, terms associated with safety, colors of safety code, steps for mandating a safe, orderly shop, fire classes, fire extinguisher, safe and unsafe shop safety practices. Did a little more than that. I remember working on these, the weed eaters and the lawnmowers. It must have been what we used for the grounds there. It was teaching us this, the safety part, and letting us tinker with the equipment for penitentiary grounds, I guess. And this one, residential wiring. I remember that it was very like I don't know, 4 foot by 4 foot little exterior walls, studs, and we ran little short runs of conduit and put in electrical boxes and ran wiring to switches and the light bulb. And so it wasn't like we were actually wiring the place, but understand procedure for electrical safety. Understand the use of pouch tools. Understand the use of specialty tools. Understand the Ohm's law. That must be eagle over an icy river, which is electromotive force divided by resistance equals current, or electromotive force divided by current would equal the resistance. So voltage divided by amps equals resistance equals R. Ohms. Ohm law. I'm probably pretty sure that's what that's about. And that's how I remember it. It's a circle. It's got an E in the top half of the circle, and the circle is divided in half, and then it's got the I and the R in the bottom with a line in between it. That means you can do division either way, and it equals the other one. And I'm assuming, I haven't done this for a while, but I'm assuming, yeah, that would be true. Current multiplied by resistance should get you the voltage. Because if you divide the voltage by the resistance and get the ohms, that's what I'm thinking. It gets the voltage. Yeah, because 12 divided by 2 would be 6. 6 times 2 would be 12, yeah. So it works in a circle. Eagle over an icy river. That's the formula for that. Know how to use conductor cables. Understand blueprint and specifications. Know how to use equipment properly. I actually assemble electrical equipment now. Giant switchboards for powering data centers and giant industrial projects, and giant Bitcoin mining facilities, and special projects. So that's actually what I do now. That's the business that the guy that I was renting the garage from started about the same time I started my automotive repair business. He was in real estate since like 2006, which is how he was able to make the money to start his own business. But yeah, I work for him now. I'm building those. So we'll never know what the future holds. Taking the residential wiring way back then. Way back then was 1995. That's 20 years ago. 1995. 2000. That's 30 years ago. Holy cow. 30 years ago. Okay. Anyway, so know how to use equipment properly. Understand proper wiring methods. Understand load centers. Understand overcurrent protection. Know new construction box location. Know switching situations. Know receptacle outlets. And understand low voltage. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I did, other than lifting weights and shooting the basketball around and figuring out a way to get my hands on some cigarettes or some nicotine, maybe some pot once in a while I was in there at the juvenile pen. Yeah, I ended up getting out of the juvenile corrections, getting paroled, and like I had said in previous video, went back to my same environments down there where I was raised at in the bottoms. Started doing just the same things that I've always did. You know, I wasn't in a structured environment. Seems like I did pretty well every time I was in a structured environment. So yeah, I just want to get caught up to that point because right now in the videos, I'm through the childhood up through about 18, 19 years old now, out of the juvenile penitentiary, back in the bottoms, doing the same things I was doing as a kid, same things I was doing to get into trouble. Getting introduced to harder drugs, because I was only doing marijuana and alcohol up to that point. Then I got introduced to powder cocaine and crack cocaine at that age, 18 and a half, somewhere around 19. I wasn't in the juvenile correction system all the way till I was 19. It was sentenced not to exceed my 19th birthday. So yeah, once I got involved in the harder drugs, like I said in the previous video, ended up I can't remember what it was. It was something that I sold to my uncle, and I ended up taking it back. I don't remember too much about it, but I remember that's the reason that I left down there and went back to being with my mom. My dad was going to get my life in order and tried to change geographical location, thinking that would help. And it basically just did the same things I was doing for my entire life. Just kept doing the same thing. So I ended up getting in trouble with the adult as an adult now, and got a disorderly conduct. That was a situation there. So it was a couple doors down from where we were staying, and we were all partying and getting into it with somebody on the sidewalk or something. I don't completely remember it all. The cops were questioning me and asking me for my ID and everything. And I was giving them crap, telling them, F you, you're wasting my time, get a hold of my attorney, I ain't telling you nothing. Handcuffed, they put me in the back of the cop car, they kept asking me. And I said, F you, you're wasting my time. And then pow, cop took his flashlight out of his belt and smacked me straight across my mouth with it handcuffed in the back of his car. And that just reinforced the beliefs that I had that cops were bad. Okay? So they ended up taking me to jail, or they let me go. They let me go off that. But I ended up going back to the house, drinking a little more, and coming back out. And they ended up picking me up and taking me to jail that night. They didn't take me in on that specific call where they hit me with it in the mouth with the flashlight, knocked my tooth all loose, busted my lip open. But I remember waking up in jail that next morning, you were bite into that piece of toast. And man, tooth was all loose and hurting and could barely even eat breakfast. But I remember that pretty clearly. I gave him my ID. Yeah, I did. All tough as cuff can be. Motherfucker handcuffed in the back of the car, getting beat up. But yeah, so I got out of jail after that. It was just a couple of days. Got out on a signature bond. My sister came up from the southeastern coast down there. She came up to visit. She was pregnant with her first baby, and she visited for a little while, and I ended up riding out, heading down there with her to be part of her having her first kid. And yeah, so I ended up down there doing construction with her husband, clearing wooded lots, removing stumps, all for new construction. Her husband was the Bobcat operator, and I did all kinds of stuff. I used the Bobcat, used the front end loader, the backhoe. The thing I didn't get on was the bulldozer or the dump truck. But yeah, we ended up clearing out wooden lots and removing stumps, and then digging out for the concrete company come in and lay the footings. Then some cinder block people would come in and do the foundations. And then I believe we would backfill inside the foundation. And plumbers would come in and run piping and whatever not, and then they'd pour concrete and cover all that up, and they'd build the house. And then when they were all doing all the building the house, we'd grade the property and cut out the driveway and a sidewalk or whatever we had to do with the Bobcat. Cut that out, and concrete company would come in again and put in the sidewalks and concrete porches, concrete driveway, all that. So yeah, I ended up down there. And yeah, living with my sister, working, still drinking. Ended up finding a place to get some crack. So still doing the same stuff I was doing, smoking weed. I remember to this day being down that close to over to the ocean. That was some pure coke over there. And it was in high quantities, so I was off to the races, man. Still functioning, still working. Wasn't really breaking the law or anything. But yeah, geographically changed again to another state. Took my same point of view, same thinking patterns, same vision for my life, which wasn't one. No vision, no goals, just living. And here I am down south, starting to do the same things I was doing before. And I will continue on with that story in my next video. Had a pretty long day today. Just wanted to brush up on a couple more details, continue further on into my story. We're getting into my very first long-term relationship with 8 years is where we're at in the story. So yeah, I met a bartender. Lucky me. Back at you next time, guys. Thanks for listening. Appreciate your time. Hopefully I'm not wasting it. Hopefully you're getting something out of it other than just some enjoyment, some storytelling. Peace out, guys. Talk to you later.